Hi, I'm Danger Dan Jers, the host and GM of the D&D Real Play podcast, D&D Dark. Join us on Wednesdays for an absurd, over-the-top comedy horror adventure, starring some of history's most infamous monsters.
I'm Ben Magnet. I play Mary Frankenstein, our barbarian.
I am Daniel Cruz. I am playing Imhotep the Mummy, our cleric.
I'm Jordan, and I play Larry Talbot, a lycanthropic warlock.
I am Grayson, playing Jet Griffin, the Invisible Man, the party's rogue.
I am Aaron. I play the Phantom of the Opera, our bard.
For more information, go to dndarkpodcast.com and listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
Listen up, nerds. We're doing pen and paper stuff. The Paladins of Podcast are back. And rolling the dice on new content, upgrades to nothing, and a few missing pages from the rule books. Introducing Joshua Johnson, the man behind... Wait, where did those notes go? Follow Rob and Josh as they navigate the Outer Planes and anywhere in between on the Epic Table Games audio show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Epic Table Games audio show with the Paladins of Podcast, Rob and Josh.
Hey, Rob. Once again, another fun week. This last weekend, I did a Terraria speedrun with my younger brother. He loves Terraria, and I do not. I relied him on for the knowledge base on it, and he fucked it up. We did not complete the speedrun. It was horrible. He got real sleepy and gave up.
That's unfortunate. I'm only ever used to speedruns when it comes to things like Mario Brothers.
When I talk about speedruns, I talk about the amateur ones where you just act goofy as hell and you try to pretend like you're a speedrunner. It's actually quite entertaining. I gave him a choice for the next one. It was either Viva Pinata or Jurassic World Evolution, and he immediately said Viva Pinata because he absolutely hates Jurassic World Evolution.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I stick to pretty much Mario Brothers. That's actually the only one I really know. I know that you can beat the game through skipping certain levels and a few hacks here and there.
Yeah.
I've seen speedruns on other concept games like Sonic the Hedgehog, but it's designed to move fast through, and then you have to move every level linearly, so it still takes a while to beat.
I find Super Mario 64 ones are particularly, very satisfying.
Yeah?
Yeah, look those up. You will see people, if you've ever played that game, you can go completely, totally off the walls acrobatic in that game, and you just don't realize how far you can go until you watch a speedrunner do it, because a lot of them aren't doing, kooky, I figured out how to glitch the wall. You just watch them wall jump somewhere you really never even considered it, and they're to a star in a half second. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, so today I was thinking shortly after I woke up, and it gave me a question I wanted to ask you. Not considering things like pre-written campaigns, modules, etc. When you're doing your homebrew worlds, your storylines, etc., how do you develop NPCs or bad guys? What's your first initial process?
All right. So once again, this is actually somewhat related to our influences episode. Please go listen back to that, whichever one that was. Basically, something that would have really inspired me within the recent last 6 months or so, I will put in as a villain. I will reflavor them, and I will attempt to recontextualize them so they're a little more fitting to what the party might be interested in, or as a bit of themed flavor. For example, if there's a character who's oh yeah, I'm the secret prince of this nation, which I don't usually do, but if they did, I'd be oh, the big bad guy is actually the regent of the land, the person who stepped in the place of the king and secretly is the bad guy, or isn't directly the bad guy, which also can be quite fun.
Yeah.
In general, when I do homebrewing of that kind, I really get into it. This is where homebrew gets really fun, because this is the step that becomes the most satisfying of world building. The only part that makes it frustrating is trying to get into the idea that your players will reach there one day at some point within what could be literally years.
Yeah, that's true.
So it can be a hard pill to swallow to come up with a really cool idea or story, and then it might not ever get executed on.
That's fair. I asked especially because I kind of woke up and when I'm developing my NPCs or bad guys, I generally start with everything from the sound of their voice to the personality, to things that they would say, and then I slowly build it from there. So I essentially write scripts for them, one line at a time, that give them an idea of who that character is. And then from there, once I start to develop the personality, I can develop the motivation. And then the motivation turns into just, it's centered around, I'll use Big Bad Evil Guy for an example. It's sort of centered around him, and then everything builds around that culmination, kind of like a Jawbreaker. It's layer on top of layer on top of layer. You're right, and the party doesn't always get there, depending on how it works out, or it can take years. And I don't do it for every character, but the important ones tend to get a little bit of that treatment.
Would you, okay, so based on the way you're saying it, do you come up with, like, kind of quirky characters or stereotypical characters and then, like, use that as a frame and then turn it into a more normal character? Because that's what it sounds like, kind of like this is an interesting character to me, and therefore I, like, recurve it into being an actual character. It's not just a quirky stereotype.
Sometimes. It depends on the character or the character need.
Okay.
So if I have a character, let's say that's, describe a quirky character.
So very easy. Like, you love your bards, or at least the couple bard NPCs you have. It's very easy to be like, here's my bard NPC. They're sick as fuck. They play their music interesting as hell. They're very sassy. Like, this is actually a very stereotypical kind of NPC that people will at times make.
Okay. So let me tell you about a bard that I made. And this is for Pathfinder 1st Edition. And he was an NPC. So he was not a player bard. Mm-hmm. I used player rules, though, so he was still rules okay. Mm-hmm. He was human, mute, could not talk. Mm-hmm. Had a traumatic background and simply had no tongue, which is why he was mute and would not talk. Expressed all emotion through his ability to play his lute. His fingerprints were the symbols of his deity. And as I built this character up, essentially I used the... oh god, what was his first name? Hold on. I can look this up real quick.
Everyone, hold on. Please pause the audio show while Rob looks this up real quick.
I am so sorry, guys. It was Antonio Stradivari.
Okay.
So eventually I based him off of the creator of the Stradivarius.
Yeah, I was about to say, because I was actually a viola player for 8 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
You do not strike me as that kind of person. But I did not initially base this bard off of Antonio Stradivari. It just sort of fit after I developed his personality a little bit more.
Okay.
And then I was like, honestly, the character kind of fits this role of a almost iconic figure within the world. I mean, he wasn't necessarily deific by any means. He wasn't idolized. He was just simply at the top mark of his craft. And yet he was just only recently out of some form of an apprenticeship.
So very interesting. I'm very different from you now that this is becoming more defined. What you've done is you've put a lot of work into that character. I think this is an interesting line that it creates, because for some people, they hear you say that and they might start thinking you've created a DMPC of a sort. They've used all the character rules, which is actually very unnecessary. Mm-hmm. But by doing that, you technically create a character that can be officially played, which is a half step towards a DMPC.
I do not use them.
Yeah,
DMPCs.
They have
that's a soapbox.
They have a full character line developed when the party meets them, which is actually not normal. Most people that develop those characters, they develop them to a certain level, and this is what I do too. We develop them to a certain level, and then once you see the player engagement, then you start developing them further. You basically retcon the character a bit.
Yeah, I'm used to that happening. I'm not saying I don't do it. Sometimes it happens. But overall, yeah, characters. Let me say it a little bit differently. I am so used to my party asking so many fucking details about every goddamn NPC that I just started creating every damn NPC, unless they were absolutely insignificant. Okay. Like Mary Jane, who's walking her dog between the house and the backyard, they're going to run into her. I'm not going to make a background story. But if it's any kind of like recurring NPC or any kind of character they may actually be interested in, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Like a lot of bar owners have backgrounds.
Yeah, that's to me that's a total given.
Right. A lot of times the important characters in armies, town guards, etc., they have backgrounds and motivations. The town leaders, kingdom leaders, etc., anybody they have to interact with generally has a background or motivation. And I create all of them. And whether they're explored or not, it's kind of a bummer, but I create almost all of them.
Yeah, just to lay out my kind of format for creation, what I do is, so if I'm doing a homebrew world, that's why I have such an intense session 0 when it comes to the party playing my main campaign, because I will ask what style of game they want to play. So if they're going to play a linear narrative campaign, I don't have to worry about actually a lot of the world. I only have to be worried about the places they're going to visit on their track along while they're playing.
Yeah.
So I prepare some of that stuff. When it comes to a lot of NPCs, basically I come up with the premise for the town. So like, easy one is Phandalin. It's reused during a couple modules. The initial one, Mines of Phandalin, the Mines of Phandelver, the town of Phandalin, and in Dragon of Icefire Peak, which is once again the town of Phandalin. It's a mining town, so a more unique location to it is an actual prospect, you turn in your stuff here, like gems and other gold finds and all that. So I'll have the basics, blacksmith, general store, bar, tavern, whatever. You all know what we're talking about. I'll set that stuff up, basic characters, just with a small character quirk, either the way they talk, maybe the way they look, like maybe one line that could be something to help describe them. So someone who's not too fond of strangers. So strangers show up to town, they're a little more reserved when talking to them, but they're not unfriendly. Please don't make unfriendly NPCs. It's a terrible idea. And then the one different character would be that one shop that belongs to only this town, like the mining prospector, like a church. Church is actually a very good example because you don't put churches in every town, but most people would be inclined to. It's a very interesting premise.
I put shrines.
Shrines I'm good with. It's just, if I have a shrine, I actually will not put NPCs at them every time. I'll do outside shrines. Timora, Goddess of Luck, in the D&D world. That one's easy. You can just literally make up whatever you want. It's hilarious the way the lore describes it.
That's fair, too.
Yeah, so basically, I define the very, very important characters. So your ruler of your kingdom, please give them a little depth. They need something to go off of. I mean, even if your players don't encounter them within the first couple sessions, you got to work with something because their personality can actually define the land that your players are going to be in.
Yeah.
Their feelings and their thoughts influence the region at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I have a tyrannical leader who thinks he's right. He's not super cruel, but he is extreme. He thinks what he does is right, so he imposes strict laws on the people. They're not all based on cruelty. It's just heavy taxes, which really sucks for peasants.
Yep.
And guards are typically friendly, but are on watch all the time. So you can't be fucking around at night.
Right.
So
right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I dig that. I think it's one of those fun things. And as you mentioned, it's kind of the part of world building that I've noticed there are two camps that people get into. Camp, build out character, or camp, build out world, and they generally stick pretty heavily to one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, and it can be a pain in the butt. But when I'm doing it, I woke up. When I woke up, I don't even remember what the line was now. I should have written it down, but it came with the voice, the personality, the look, the character. But one line. I had to build a character idea off of an entire one sentence.
That works. No, that makes sense.
It was 6 words.
Yeah.
So here I am. I take 6 words and I start to build out a character. And like you said, you take that and you develop how their influence spreads when there's a leader. I like the fact that your tyrannical leader with a heavy hand in law is not necessarily cruel.
Yeah.
Most times they're super cruel and they're jerks and everything.
Well, way back when, he was just a kid farmer, and he watched his family the farm would get attacked by bandits, and that's what he grew up with. So when he became an adult, he's like, he doesn't want people in his land to suffer, but he believes that it was only through his leadership that they were able to succeed, and so he drags that into the current era.
Right, and that's similar to the homebrew campaign I told you about, the one I let you... nope, different campaign. But I had told you about where the Empire, the cruel, tyrannical dictator, empire leader guy, Leandris Grimm, he outlawed and banned all magic, and he actively hunts casters down to kill them. And it's specifically because when he was younger and he watched what magic can do, he realized magic can really get in the way of what he wanted to do. Yeah,
see, I like that, and that's so much more reasonable. If you have those points, don't be afraid to put them in your games earlier, because if you make it a plot twist later, you've put your players through like 80% of some frustration or difficulty, and they don't know why it's happening.
Right.
So you could be like, oh, by speaking to people in the lands, you learn that like they're afraid of these magical occurrences that have happened, and this is why people are afraid. You don't have to be at the last minute like, he was secretly on the right side the whole time, you just didn't see his point of view. I hate that. It's
Same.
Goofy.
Same.
Goofy.
And you know another one I'm really irritated about is, you've secretly been working for the bad guy.
Yep. No.
Like, that's not... Just to throw in that twist, I mean, the heroes, the adventurers, the party members, they're doing heroic things usually.
Yeah.
And bad guys don't just flip midway. Like, it's not generally entertaining or interesting.
It can be, but you know everything can be.
It takes work.
One, it's overdone, so you're gonna see it in way too many games when it does happen. It's jarring when it happens because it's usually not well set up. The only times I've seen that scenario work out seemingly efficiently is sadly, once again, it's another retcon situation where they realize like, oh, this NPC's points actually align with the bad guy, and this would be a cool moment for this to happen. And then it seems cool because it actually lined up well. But like preemptively being like, yes, their new buddy party member that goes with them on adventures is secretly the bad guy. I'm sorry, it does not end well, like most of the time.
I read something just recently about what you've spoken about. A DM in one of the DM groups I'm a part of was talking about the player wanted to essentially be the antithesis to the party. So he would go out and about and do all the party stuff without complaint. Just sort of buckle down, not a problem.
Okay.
Essentially spy on the party.
Okay, so far premise totally fine.
Right. I've allowed this so far in one of my games. Report information back to essentially the bad guys. Not a problem at all. But he wanted to eventually openly switch sides and be actively against the party, which essentially makes him a bad guy. And I can follow and track and be okay with it all the way up until the hero, the player, wants to essentially switch sides, because now you're going to get into a sort of PvP style situation. You're actually going to destroy the entire player base at your table because you're switching sides.
And like there's so many factors that go wrong in it. Like, okay, if let's say you let the player do this, well, by doing this you've heavily thrown things against the party. Let's say you tilt it in the party's favor. Now that player feels betrayed by you. It just doesn't end well.
Right. So when I handled that, my player specifically told me when he brought the idea to me that he wanted a redemption arc.
What?
He wanted a redemption arc.
Okay, so he wanted to be this. He wanted to be a bad guy in secret. So the premise is okay. Turn on the party. Somehow make things work out where their lives get challenged, and then also have a redemption arc after that. He's basically writing out the character story ahead of time.
Just some main plot, not even plot points, just some main ideas. I'm like, I can work with this. So in general, what happened is he started when he joined the party as a spy, infiltrating bad guy. Not a huge deal.
Yeah.
As things went down, he almost got caught by his party, so they could see what was going on a little bit.
I'm assuming there were opportunities for them to catch him.
frequently. Like,
Okay, good.
Every single time that he ducked out of sight, like if he wanted to sneak away for whatever reason, like they always had an opportunity to notice. So I'm like,
Were they hearing this stuff at the table?
no.
Okay.
No. So
It was more like, hey, I'm going to go do a thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That is, to me, that's the way it should be handled.
Yep. And a lot of times, because I don't mind having my computer open to keep notes and keep track of a lot of the things that I'm doing, he would just send me a message, hey, this is what's going on. And then he'd be like, hey, I'm going to sneak off and do something. And I'd be like, hey, guys, roll me a perception check or a notice check. And if they succeeded, it'd be like, hey, you noticed that so-and-so just sort of dipped out. He's not here right now. So they had plenty of opportunities. Eventually what ended up happening is he switched sides before they even found out that he was a bad guy. Because that's kind of how his arc went on. Like, they rubbed off on him well enough.
Okay.
And when it was revealed that he started off as a bad guy, the party's like, what?
So, yeah, that is kind of a cool moment, yeah.
Yeah. So he got his redemption arc, but it was more private than all publicly done out at the table. I guess this also leads me into another idea, because I mentioned that he would message me. I like not being included in the party plans. I like to be surprised at what the party wants to do.
I'm not against it. The only reason I actually do the opposite. I'm not against that. I actually do like that. The only reason I ever let it, like, ask for it to be out in the open is because sometimes if a player has an intention and I'm not on the same page with them, it's the idea of someone, and I think I brought this up at our session 0. If you say, no, just get ready, and you say that, the other party member, they don't want to waste their turn on they don't know what you're going to do.
Sure.
There's a lot of, that's why I always go, like, just say it out loud, because I'm not interested in countering you. I'm interested in, like, if you're going to do an alley-oop, I'm not afraid to, like, watch that happen.
Right.
That's why I like intentions communicated. But yeah, it takes a little of the sparkle away.
A little bit. And again, it depends on situations. I think when you're in combat, definitely plan and work together. Just don't waste turns. Like, I don't want 20 minutes dedicated to one guy's.
But to finish out the thing that you were just saying about that. So I have to know about the redemption arc thing. So the betrayal happens. Okay, what are the consequences of that betrayal? What happened?
With the party?
I mean, yeah, in general, I mean, did he turn against the party in mid-fight? Did he turn against them, like, in the background while you guys are playing?
So when he started off, he would keep heavy tabs on the party. And his contact, which he had no idea who his contact was, he was just told when to leave information and where to leave information. Okay. So he would just leave a drop of paper somewhere or a few words. I'm not going to say he was a master spy, but he was leading up to that style of class and play. Sure. So they were more advanced than typical notes. They were undecipherable to a lot of different people, kind of thing. Yeah. And so he would generally follow up the back of the party. And he understands how a lot of party members, how a lot of players play. So he knew how to play in a way that didn't seem suspicious. You know, hey, you guys go ahead. I'll be right up. I'm going to make sure I'm going to survey the area. You know, I'm a spy. I'm going to scout. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Oh, cool. Not a big deal. So when he's out and about doing that on his own, he's like dropping notes, leaving information, burying things that can be picked up by his contact later. So the party had a very hard time actually discovering him on their own. It wasn't until something happened from higher up for his orders where he had to do something. He was like, no, I cannot do that. Like, doing that would destroy this group of people I've actually grown close to. I know I'm still feeding you information, but I'm not just going to kill them in their sleep. And then there was a fight where one of the guys gave him an order to kill the party member. And they're like, wait, what? What?
Like to assassinate one of them in their sleep? Or
no, they were in a combat situation, and in the middle of the combat situation, they were fighting against this guy. He told my player to stop fucking around and kill them. Like, why are you fighting us? Kill them. And that was the reveal. And then we had to pause so the party could kind of grapple with what the hell he was just meaning by that. Said spy did not kill the party members. He said, I forgot exactly what his line was, but he ended up killing 3 the guy who was giving him orders, his boss, essentially. And then he ended up on the lam from his organization that he was a part of, and they had to deal with that for a while.
So ultimately, see, that's very... I do like it as like a plot reveal that he was against them, but I don't know if I really like it overall, because if I think about it, there are truly no consequences to him having even committed that long-term betrayal. Like...
To the party? No. No, but that's player psychology. They're already with you.
Yeah.
You know? It's, he knew that there would be zero or minimal consequences from the party itself.
Interesting.
So,
yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, you've got enough experience playing that you understand how parties work.
Yeah, and I've had party secrets and betrayal stuff before that's happened, but the only time I've done it is to basically it's not truly going to hurt one of the other players, which is like it's softballing, but I'd rather softball and everyone have a good time. More importantly, did your players enjoy it? Did that player get what he wanted out of it? Then, you know what? In the end, it works out, and it works out great.
Yeah, essentially that's what we did here was just softball.
Yeah.
It wasn't major.
To listeners out there, just be really careful when you do that stuff, because you can have some really, really upset players at certain points.
Yeah.
From what it sounded like, you kept it separated enough away from the general party that it didn't have to create that, which is really good.
Right.
It's really good.
The one thing I was cautious about is if the player would have been like, sure, okay, I'll kill him.
Yeah, oh my gosh, if that had happened, oh my god, that's like very hard to salvage moment.
Yep. I mean, I've had PvP moments as a DM. I've done PvP moments as a player. It's generally not pleasant by any means. In fact, I remember once I was playing a self-righteous paladin who was just... He felt he was unfallible, and his mentality was immutable. He would not sway on any position he felt he was right in, and he was essentially xenophobic. Anybody who was of a specific race that he viewed as evil definitely would just draw swords. And my DM allowed it, and it was ridiculous. It was just a hassle.
Yep.
And fighting against the party it's a waste of time. It's not really a whole lot of fun. Sometimes names get thrown out. People take it personal.
Yeah.
And I just don't deal with that anymore. So...
Yeah, you have to have a very particular... Essentially, I believe in, like, that's a party consent one. You definitely need the whole party to be on the same page, because then when you do that, then yes, you're putting the responsibility in the player's hands to be mature about it as well.
Right. You ever have a player coup de grace another player in the sleep?
Oh, you mean try to assassinate them?
Yeah, I mean like a successful attempt.
Trying to think. I think one player was going to attempt it and I shut it down because it wasn't like a reasonable time. Like, sadly, I hate doing that because I'm not supposed to be playing their character, but I go like, your character's this kind of person. Do they really think they're just going to kill them in the night? No one has a problem with it, and then you run off on your own and you think your D&D adventure goes on. No, I have to take your character sheet. You have to play a new character. They're pissed. Like, it just all ends bad.
Now, that's something that you just sort of mentioned, taking character sheets. If I'm playing a game and my general rule is if your characters drift to a certain level of evality.
Yep. Nope. We're on the same page.
Evilness.
Yep.
Yeah, they're just going to be an NPC now.
Yep.
And it's a thing where I'm like, hey, if your character is going to go this route and this evil, and they're just going to kind of do it out of nowhere, and they're going to stick to that.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna reset here because I need party cohesion.
It's totally not conducive, and it's not a shame against the player. Mm-hmm. I get it. If I had to bring up a scenario, this is actually not one I did. One my younger brother did. I'll keep this story short because I don't want to go on story tangents.
Sure.
My brother, first time DM. This happened like 6 months ago. He got to be a player, which was a nice change of pace, of course. Plays with his friend. His friend is chaotic neutral for the first time, which is really just chaotic asshole if you're brand new.
Yeah.
So started doing some of that, but what it very quickly turned into half the time was oh, we're fighting orcs and I'm a half-orc, I'm actually going to team up with the half-orcs or the orcs right now in the middle of the fight. And everyone just goes,
why?
What the fuck are you talking about?
But why?
And he's like, because I'm chaotic neutral. I just do whatever the fuck I want.
You're right. Absolutely new player, chaotic, stupid
it's like,
kind of shit.
No, you're confused. You're fetishizing the chaotic part. That's not even neutral. Mm-hmm. That's actually just flat out chaotic evil to like a high degree.
Yes.
You are favoring your success and your odds in a situation at the detriment of others completely at the drop of a hat. Mm-hmm. And that's just stupid because you didn't even plan this out with the DM. You flabbergasted the DM because
right.
Now are they supposed to allow you to help kill the party? It's, oh my God, it's so good. It's so good.
Now, funny, related, I love playing chaotic neutral characters. I play chaotic neutral not because it allows me to do whatever I want. It allows me to do whatever sort of balance I feel is acceptable.
Yeah.
So it allows me to be able to help drive DM narrative. I like to help the story progress. I never say, hey, DM, I'm going to actively help you out by playing a character that can go either way you need it to go.
Right.
I'm just low-key. We'll push it whatever direction. So one time I'm playing this chaotic neutral character, and we end up, I forgot what kind of village we're in, but one of the players was also chaotic neutral, semi-new to the game. He was making a ruckus, but he wasn't making a scene. He wasn't hindering the party's advancements. I was trying to make up good with the town chieftain. Things were acceptable.
Is he making people like facepalm and sweat a little?
Yes and no, kind of. How's going on?
I think I know what kind of player you're talking about.
So this is where we're at in the story here, but prior to this, my chaotic neutral character, we came across a young girl who happened to be the chieftain's daughter, and she was corralling some sort of like a hippogriff kind of style animal.
Okay.
There were a few of them. They were getting kind of rowdy, and they were attacking her, and it looked like she was defending. I don't know.
Oh, she's fully lost control of them.
Yeah, but to our outsiding selves, my chaotic neutral is like, shit, I don't know what's going on. So I attacked the girl. Like, apparently she's the bad guy doing something to these intelligent creatures. They're ganging up on her.
Oh, okay.
So I killed her. And then then the hippogriff characters tried to kill us. And I was like, oh shit, I made a wrong call, so we killed them.
Awkward. Walks away, everything is bloody. Awkward.
Doesn't matter, everybody's dead. So we end up in this town. We find out that this girl I killed, which was just me, by the way. None of the else party members tried to help me on that one. They apparently picked up on the cues a lot earlier than I did. Mm-hmm. That's also probably the absolute wrong reason to develop melee characters that completely destroy things in one move. Yeah. Anyhow, as we move on, it comes down later where there's a big celebration to welcome us to this village, right? And the guy's all like, well, let's just wait for our daughter, blah, 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 blah. And somebody comes running in. Chieftain, your daughter's dead, blah, blah, blah. They've been slaughtered. And I'm like, just keep quiet. Oh, shit, just keep quiet.
See, okay, I gotta point out, this is why what you're doing is what I actually like and prefer in chaotic and chaotic neutral characters. You didn't go like, I'm gonna commit fuckery. Mm-mm. You went, I don't know the context, but I just see this girl trying to manhandle these intelligent animals. Like, this is kind of not okay. I need to step in. Mm-hmm. And even though it went a little extreme, it kind of reasonably happened. And then you realize, like, oh, I fucked up. Mm-hmm. You're like, it's fine. And you moved on. Your character acknowledged that there are consequences for their actions. And the problem players are the polar opposite. They think the consequences are that they're funny, and it's not.
I agree. Because once it came to light that his daughter was dead, I was like, that guy did it.
Yeah.
Instantly, I blamed one of my party members. The one that everybody was sweating when we first showed up.
Him.
Yeah. I was like, that guy did it. I've been smoozing with the chieftain all day. It was that guy.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, the chaotic neutral aspect, it is not a free reign to do whatever you want.
No.
And I hate that, because when you do whatever you want, people have a tendency to lean evil. They lean evil in fantasy-based games because they cannot have the opportunity to lean evil in real life.
Yes, or I call it not good. It's not evil, it's not good.
That's fair.
Which then turns into like horrible actual evil.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly when I mentioned that I had one character who essentially bandits were on a boat and I burned down the boat. They were famous for arson. And
It's ironic.
I burned down their boat so they couldn't get away.
Yeah,
Like,
fuck.
did I could technically commit arson? Yes.
And that's hilarious.
But I'm chaotic neutral, like arsonists, arson. They can't get away. They're bad guys. We're in water. Like, we're not going to destroy the entire harbor here. I'm only ruining one group of people's personal property.
And it's the bad guys,
Right.
the focus of your intention.
Right, and everybody is like, "That's an evil act. You're willingly committing an evil act by setting fire and committing arson."
That is so far off from what actual evil is.
Yes, I
oh
agree.
my gosh.
I agree, and I like that we're talking about alignment because it comes up so often. How do you generally? We have 9 alignments. You have your chaotic, neutral. You have. I'm used to start with neutrals. You got your chaotic neutral, good neutral, and neutral evils. From there, you have your lawful and then your chaotic. So we have a pretty big spread.
And then you have neutral, good, neutral, evil, and true,
Yeah.
true neutral. Or the one I consider you're an animal. You're just an animal. The true neutral, you're an animal.
Yeah, I consider neutral, true neutral, or neutral neutral is technically the hardest to play.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many archetypes that fulfill it even decently. You got like C-3PO, sort of.
Two-Face.
He is either lawful evil or lawful neutral. He believes in the societal norm he establishes. The difference between the evil and the neutral. Neutral means it regardless of the benefit to himself or others, he's following law. The lawful evil could be the fact that he's mercilessly gunning people down. So he's really lawful evil. You have Judge Dredd, who's lawful neutral. True neutral is like that. That's why I hate it, but I refer to a lot of animals because animals are like they just exist and they survive and they don't have actual anything else.
Right. I agree about true neutral animals because essentially they have their nature, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
They don't have. They're not committing good acts like a wolf hunting a rabbit and killing to eat the rabbit.
They gain no personal investment over doing that. They just are surviving.
Right, and it's nature. It's them eating. They're not breaking any rules or laws.
Yeah.
Obviously, the rabbit thinks the wolf is evil.
Yeah.
But the rabbit is essentially the victim.
Yeah.
But they're both playing their predicated roles.
Yeah, so it's really hard to play. In general, true neutral, I don't recommend you try to play that kind of character. It's very strange. It's very hard to do, too.
It is.
It's also hard to be very consistent about it.
Yes.
But overall, so alignment. When it comes to alignment, for me, I've made the mistake before of taking it too seriously. I've realized that, like, when you play a character, it should be a premise for a lot of your character's actions for a consistency's sake and for developing a character that might not be you.
Yeah.
That means that you need to also allow for the space that they do things outside of that during important moments, during moments that can change them. But overall, alignment doesn't need to be such a huge thing.
See, I like using alignment. I know a lot of people shy away from alignment because they're essentially alignment is just gray.
Yeah, DMs dig alignment. Yeah.
The reason I like the alignment is because it's essentially a baseline for how you generally act. I mean, I don't look at bad days aren't a reflection of your alignment. Everybody has bad days.
Yeah.
Consistent bad days
Yeah.
might tend to start to shift you, but it's not a reason to just automatically go good to evil. In fact, it takes a lot for somebody to really make a full switch, unless something breaks. Mentally they just.
Yeah, I will do like very, very primal moments. Like for a certain player, they just started acting really weirdly sadistic, and there was no reason behind it. And I had to ask them because it was during like an interrogation half torture scene, and I'm like, the guy's relenting. He's giving you the information. Like, you can torture him, but I'm being very clear with you that you are already successful. Why are you talking to him in like a sinister way still, or in such a way that would like provoke his life? And not only that, I was like, the idea is you almost have to dig from your players. Are you doing that because you think it's fun to make him uncomfortable, or are you doing that because it gets you more information? The player admitted because they thought it was fun to be that way. And I was like, well, all right, then change your character from chaotic neutral to chaotic evil.
Yeah.
They don't have to be the Joker, but you are leaning chaotic evil.
Right, and that's absolutely fair. You see, when you first described it, when you first went out, I instantly thought of that scene from Fight Club where our narrator, played by Edward Norton, is beating Angel, Jared Leto's character, and he says, I wanted to destroy something beautiful.
So good.
It is. And, I'm like, if that's the case, if it's just one moment, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Like, he's so fed up with that. Like, imagine when the good guy just breaks and he goes to the absolute extreme on the bad guy. I mean, like, he normally wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Batman has done it, and you're like, shit, Batman's going overboard. But he won't kill him. So, I'm like, he's pushing that envelope. He's pushing to the line. He's redlining. He is almost over it.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't make him evil. Maybe out of control.
Also, that's where we lead into the slippery slope argument, which I hate. I think, and by that I refer to a very specific argument in the Red Hood storyline of Batman, where basically Red Hood now revealed himself to be, spoilers for the comic that's been out for 20 years. Jason Todd, come back from the dead, he tells Batman, like, why not just kill the Joker, like fully calling him out for it. He goes, oh, there's no way back. It's the slippery slope. If I kill him, who knows where I'll stop. And he goes, it's the Joker. He basically gets off on killing more and more people each plot. This is not the Penguin, where he's just greedy. This is not Two-Face, where he's just messed up in the head. This is the Joker, where he's murdering people in droves and will never stop. Killing him is the exception to your rule that's completely tolerable. And it's the comic book calling out the Batman comic, like, in the best possible way.
Yeah. And I think, in this case, I know that we don't generally talk a whole lot about other media, but we'll use this Batman moment because Batman set up a long time ago a set of rules to follow and live by. And that's really the only thing he has, because the bad guys in his world don't generally have a lot of these rules that they follow, etc. So Batman is literally the only 100% consistent thing in Gotham City. It's actually important for him not to break his rule.
Batman, chaotic good or lawful good? Go ahead, pick one. And I'll be your contrarian as usual.
Chaotic good.
Lawful good.
I understand the concept and idea for lawful good. I do. There's a huge argument for it. But Batman will do absolutely everything and anything he needs to do short of killing somebody to get what he needs to get the job done. That's not all. It's not all within the bounds of law. The argument for his concept for lawful is that he does not break his own rules and laws.
Yes.
However, they are changeable. If you're going to change your rules and laws all the time, you might as well not have them.
And this is why you should never horribly follow the alignment system because of this exact thing.
Right. And that's why I like to use it as a general guideline.
Yeah.
In life, I would say I'm neutral good. We take somebody like Charles Manson, maybe a little closer to lawful evil.
Technically, he's just an extreme form of neutral evil, really. I mean, he's just a dude who just loves being sadistic. He doesn't care about the laws or just being like, because I can. He just is doing it.
Right.
He's just being neutral evil.
Right.
It's just the very extreme version.
Yeah, and I think that when we try to placate the alignment idea on not even just all real individuals, but I'll say popular and well-known characters, as we try to do. Like, we always contemplate, what alignment would this individual be? Like the Punisher. Let's use these gray area characters. I'm like, well, honestly, when you're using those character ideas, you have to remember that alignment, don't look at the alignment chart and say this is the definitive. Essentially, look at a deity and they let you go 2 shifts. If you're following a deity, you can be within 2 shifts, which means you are clear to be essentially 3 alignments. And that shift allows that character to function.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what the alignment allows. It should be your core alignment, and then you just sort of gray out from there.
So as a part of this conversation, I'm going to now lean in onto Paladins, as we are, of course, the Paladins, the podcast.
Yes,
we have to describe part of our alignment. So, of course, we're both extremely lawful and chaotic and also neutral, so you can't also well define us. But that being said, when it comes to Paladins in games like D&D or even other TTRPGs, some people like to go, if you're not a lawful paladin, therefore you're not a real paladin. Please proceed to shut the fuck up and realize that you can be a paladin without following the tenets of a god's faith. You are favored by a god. A god looks to you and views you as some sort of righteous hand of their works.
Yes.
My brother created a dragonborn paladin. It was a homebrew god called Voltron.
Nice. Nice.
It is a five-headed dog, lesser god of battle. It loves being bloodthirsty in battle, but especially to protect those around it. So it is a chaotic good god. If you are running into the throes of combat and fighting till you pass out, you are serving the god's faith.
Nice.
And therefore, you have done the god's work, and he appreciates that, and he empowers you for it. You do not have to go to his doghouse temple and pray and bring him dog biscuits. That would be a cleric. That would be a cleric of Voltron.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Before you try to call out your paladins for not pissing on the ground of every other temple but their one god, incorrect. Do not do that. They may know of their god. They may be trained in their god. You can do that. You can roleplay that out, sure. But they do not need to be glued to the idea that, as a paladin of Helm, the second I step out of Helm's territory, he hates me forever.
No, that's not. Paladins are still mortals in general cases. In fact, that's how I like to look at my paladins, is that paladins are the mortal hand of their deity's general work. It does not mean that they have to be laser focused 100% of the time. They're still people, not a huge deal. I do like the idea of lawful paladins, but remember that in this case, for those of you who are listening, this lawful paladin is essentially not willingly breaking laws. He's not willingly going to go out and destroy things. He's not going to create a whole lot of waves unless it's for the absolute best, greater good. Like, he's not going to just go out and say, you know what, sorry, I can't help you because the law says I can't. If it's going to be of a benefit to you at the immediate situation, paladins are like, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to help this motherfucker out. He's not going to abide by 100% of everything 100% of the time. That makes them hard to handle, hard to deal with. Yeah. Like, for example, just because you're a lawful good paladin does not mean that you're going to run into a burning building to save somebody.
Exactly. Like, you are following tenets that you yourself believe in.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the literal law of the land. That's
right.
Such a small, obscure way to look at things. This is a great part that if you want to play this for your DM, just to be like, please shut the fuck up and leave me alone. Mm-hmm. We're right there with you. DM, leave him alone. Mm-hmm. He's just going to play the game that he wants to play. He's trying to have a fun time.
Right.
I can create a chaotic good vengeance paladin right off the top of my head. I swear an oath of vengeance against the dragon that's terrorizing the land.
Right.
I'm doing whatever it takes to defeat that guy to save everyone's lives. Chaotic good. He's in general, as long as he's pursuing that quest in some even minor degree, even a tiny degree, whether it's just collecting coin, good enough. Let it go. Move on.
And I mean, I've told you about the time where I had a player who was a paladin who, I think he was a cleric. I'm sorry, I don't remember which one he was. I think it was a cleric, but it would still apply. So, because both clerics and paladins get benefits from deities. Yeah. Not a huge deal. You can also break that pact with your deity for both of them. And for clerics, it's much more of a stringent thing to follow before you break. Paladins, a little bit more gray area.
Yeah, because they're actually a little more like warlocks than clerics.
Yeah.
Clerics are taught. Paladins they're just serving the tenant by by their action.
Right. And so I'm like, when I think about the paladin idea, I'm like, I don't necessarily set out saying we're going to break this guy's pact with this god, because that's just I don't want to ruin a character here.
Yeah.
If the character wants to ruin themselves, go for it. But looking at it, the paladin, in fact, paladins don't have to essentially swear, like you said, to their deity. They get to follow an edict or principle. Like, they can essentially swear fealty to their own principles.
Yeah.
That's good enough to be a paladin. Somebody's just blessing them. Like, whatever, here you go.
You know what that is? That's literally like the description of oath of devotion. You swear yourself to some sort of ideal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's absolutely acceptable. Paladins, the reason I like my paladins in general to be lawful is because I like them to be a compass of some sort.
Yeah, I actually totally agree.
That's really what I looked at the paladin as, is that either they're going to be a moral compass or a figurative compass to point everybody in a direction, or be looked to in situations where you need some form of law or some form of order or some form of control, without being necessarily overly cruel or evil, etc. I generally think of paladins as great guys, but people either play them like crap so often, or DMs manage them and manage their players like crap so often.
Yeah, I actually lean more towards like the DMs being bad about it, because like you're either allowing for like a player with bad faith intention to lean in, which is terrible. I actually don't blame the player. I blame the DM. Like, you see what he's doing. Why aren't you stopping him?
Right.
Or you have the DM taking it way too far, like I said earlier. Here was a good scenario where it was. So I currently have a paladin player in my party. Basically, a war was about to break out where, like, basically bandits had fully aligned and were going to go on a full crusade against a major city. And the city was not fully prepared. They didn't have reinforcements. The town knew that they were kind of fucked. And I told the players, I'm like, you guys legitimately could probably get through the blockade that the town has, like, sectioned up against, because they trust you. You've helped them out. They trust you. You could sneak out of town if you really wanted to, because you know very well that if you stay here and fight, you could die. And I will not pull punches. If you fight this battle, I will let you fight, but there is a very good chance you could die. And the players talked about it, and I noticed one player just sitting there, just kind of leaning in on himself. He's listening to what everyone heard. He would nod, but he would never respond. It was the paladin player. And when two of them finally went, hey, what do you think? He goes, I'm going to stay and I'm going to fight. Which very well means he was fully role-playing the character. If he had stayed behind and the rest left, I would have removed his player from the or his player character from the party. And I could have worded it out like, they won the battle, but at great costs, implying he died, or the city was destroyed into ruins, implying heavily that he's actually dead. There was a lot I could have done with that, but he was willing to roleplay that character out. There was no harshness, and you know what? He actually encouraged and inspired the rest of the players. They stayed, and it turned into one of my best fights that I've ever run.
Nice. I want to go down let me rephrase that. I want to go down a rabbit hole here.
Because, you mean Rabbit Hole, the audio show?
Because you mentioned if he would have stayed, if it was just him, all right, you would have taken a sheep. This is a scenario where I think of epically awesome things to do for my players, etc. He was okay with losing his character. I would have ended up taking the character, adding a few levels, giving him kind of like a little bit more of a build, and in a few levels after everybody levels up, I would come back and be like, hey, what if your character survived and this is where he's at now?
So what you just described is actually what I did. I put players before the party, or options before the party, and I was like, okay, so one of you, I gave one of them a legendary weapon, because the town's like, you're going to stay and fight for us at all costs. We believe in you. We will give you whatever you need. I gave the paladin player a sword of man-slaying. So like a sword of dragon-slaying. This one's meant for killing humanoids, which all the bandits were. So he had an insane weapon to fight them with. Another player became like a champion. So they actually had a legendary action for the fight. So they could attack in between turns once. And it was... that's what made the fight cool, is I bolstered everybody to make the fight more interesting, more engaging, because they fought like a small army. It was really crazy. Yes, what you just said is what I love. If you're going to put your players through intense situations, don't be afraid to like power them up a bit. They can get real excited by that.
Absolutely. I remember, do you remember when I told you about the character who decided that they were going to essentially take extra-dimensional space into extra-dimensional space, and they ended up poof.
Yeah.
So that character ended up in the astral plane, not technically dead, but not technically in the astral, supposed to be in the astral plane either. Mouthed off to the deity. She was like, fine, you're in hell, whatever. Whoop. In hell, not dead. Fantasy world, totally plausible. Dante did it, actually. And I was like, all right. The player used that opportunity to switch characters. He was like, I'm dead, it's not a big deal. We'll go a different route. I said, okay, cool, but this character himself is not actually dead. So that's fine. So we ended up actually rehashing his character out, so it was more of a Spawn style storyline now.
Okay.
He ended up with a complete rebuild of his class and whatnot. A lot of the feats stayed the same. We made sure they transitioned over.
Did he end up in the Abyss or the Hells?
Abyss
is demons, the Hells is devils.
He technically ended up in Hell.
Okay.
So I forgot what. I think he was Dis.
Dis, yeah, the city of Dis.
The city of Dis.
That's like the second layer, I think.
Yeah, where he ended up. And he, to save his ass, made a pact, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to use the power of evil. I'm going to flip it on him. We're going to do nothing but good with this evil power." I was like, "Okay, whatever. We can work with that. It's going to be a little difficult." But we built his character up, and it was great. And we didn't get a chance to bring his character back.
But it was going to be like a cool moment in the future.
Yes.
Because that sounds sick as fuck.
That's what I like to do. But looking at the time right here, one thing I wanted to talk to you about briefly here at the end of the episode. I know that you listened to a few of the previous episodes in Season 1, and we had what was a Monster Spotlight, and sometimes there's a Character Spotlight. We haven't been doing those, but I would like to fill that space with something different.
Okay.
So I would like to ask our listeners a question. And I think that we could have a weekly question, and people can respond either through Facebook or voice message directly through Spotify if they want to. And we can feature our favorite or best answers right at the start of our next episode.
All right.
You like that idea? I think we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I did have sort of a base question right now. Do you have any questions pop off the top of your mind that you'd like to ask, or you want to go with the one that I
Let's try the one you got.
All right, guys. So what I'd like to do is I want you guys to think of your favorite character or your current character, but what is their greatest achievement? I mean, that can be in any game system, etc. I would like to know what game system, class, level, and achievement that you're playing. I'm going to give a small story about it. And our favorite answers will be featured at the start of next week's episode. And the more you listen, you'll get more questions. The idea is to do this weekly. So
yeah,
that
sounds fun.
I like the idea.
Wait, so do I get to be the first person to answer?
You know what? Before we round out the episode, is it quick?
Nope.
All right. So we'll talk about it if we don't get a listener answer in yet. But remember, it's something that's very important to us. So make sure if you're listening on Spotify, you go ahead and respond via voice message, and you'll actually be featured in the show. If you write in on the Facebook group or Facebook page, it will allow us to at least read your content. We'll let you know who it came from, and we'll tag you in the answer when the episode's released, so long as we can keep the schedule and everything under track. Shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah, not derail the audio show with all of our D&D stories.
For sure, but they're not bad at times, but I dig it.
I think they're all great, and you all should listen to all of them.
Love it. All right, guys, make sure you check us out on Facebook at Epic Table Games, or online at epictablegames.com. I'm hoping to get some more products up soon. Big news for me, actually. Just closed on a house, going to be moving the home office, which means I should have more focus and time to get more things done now that my life has absolutely started to level out.
Yeah, great news for me. Everything's gotten super chaotic and tight, but that being said, I'm still going to work on pushing out some of that sweet extra content. So
sounds good. Thank you for everything on that, Josh. And guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Roll dice, fantastical life. Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Thank you for listening to the Epic Table Games audio show with the Paladins of Podcasts, Rob and Josh. Until next time, stay in touch on Facebook at Epic Table Games and online at epictablegames.com.